Factoring summary. To factor polynomials of two terms, you first check for common factor. So for example, ax squared plus b cubed x cubed, you factor out the x squared out. And sometimes for two terms, there's something called difference of squares, where you can just factor a square and b square, and it just becomes a plus b times a minus b. So here 25x to the 4 minus 16y squared, that is equal to 5x squared all to the exponent 2 minus 4y to the exponent 2. And so that is equal to 5x squared plus 4y times 5x squared minus 4y. Okay. Three terms we can check for common factor. So one example is 3x plus 6y minus 9z. We can factor out the 3. And then there is simple or harder trinomials. There is x squared plus 5x plus 6. So the product is going to be 6. And when you add the two numbers together, it becomes 5. So therefore the numbers are 2 and 3. So it becomes x plus 2 times x plus 3. And then 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. So the product is going to be 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. And when you add them together is 7. So the number is 6 and 1. So then you just make the 7x become 6x plus 1x. And then we see that the 2x squared plus 6x, it becomes 2x times x plus 3. And we see the 1x plus 3 just becomes 1 times x plus 3. So it becomes 2x plus 1 times x plus 3. 3 perfect square trinomials. 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. So that is equal to 3x plus 4 squared, because we can see that the 3x times itself becomes 9x squared, and we see the 4 times itself becomes 16. And so in the middle we have 3x times 4, which becomes 12x, and then you times that by 2 and you get 24x. So so that is called a perfect square trinomial, because the first term and the last term are all perfect squares. Okay, 4 terms. Check for common factor first. So for example, we can factor out an a from am plus ax plus ay plus an. We could also group in pairs and then find the greatest common factor for each pair. So for example, px plus 2y plus py plus 2x, we can get px plus py together and the 2x plus 2y together. Then we factor out a p from the first pair and the 2 from the second pair. And when we realize that is x plus 1, x plus y times p plus 2. And then we have 3xy minus 6x squared plus 8y minus 16x. We can factor out 3x from the first group and 8 from the second group. And so it becomes 3x times y minus 2x plus 8 times y minus 2x. So it becomes 3x plus 8 times y minus 2x. Difference of squares, we have x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 49y squared. So we can see that the first 3 terms, that's just x minus 3 squared. Right, because x squared gives you x squared, and then minus 3x times 2 is minus 6x. and negative 3 squared is plus 9, so it becomes x minus 3 squared. And then we see 49y squared, that's just 7y squared. So it becomes a difference of squares. And so that is just a minus b, a plus b, so that is x minus 3, that's a, plus 7y, that's b, and then y minus 3, x minus 3, that is a, and now you minus b, which is 7y. Greater than 4 terms, we check for a common factor first, so we can factor out a number from all of the terms. We can do grouping so that we get something like 3p plus q plus 6r is a common factor, and we can see that it's just a multiplied by those terms and c multiplied by those terms, so it's a plus c times 3p plus q plus 6r. And then there's difference of perfect square trinomials. So this is x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus bracket of y squared minus 4y plus 4. So the first 3 terms is x minus 3 squared minus, and then we have y minus 2 squared, which is y squared minus 4y plus 4. So to recognize this, you look at y squared and you say, well, that's just y times y. And look at the 4 and you can say that's just negative 2 times negative 2. And then you can say negative 2 times y times 2 is negative 4y, so we know it's y minus 2 squared. And then it becomes a difference of squares. So that means it's, so a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So we have a as x minus 3 and b as y minus 2. So we just get y, so it will be minus y minus 2 minus y plus 2 in the first one because you distribute the negative to the two terms, and then you just add y minus 2 because you just do the plus sign for the y minus 2. And then you would look at the numbers and you realize minus 3 and plus 2, that's just negative 1. And minus 3 plus negative 2, that's just negative 5. And so you get your answer x minus y minus 1 times x plus y minus 5. Okay, trinomial factoring. Simple trinomials. So for example, we have x squared plus 6x plus 8. So when you add the numbers, it becomes 6. When you multiply the numbers, it becomes 8. So the two numbers is 4 and 2. So we get x plus 4 times x plus 2. Question B. Y squared minus y minus 12. So the product is negative 12 and the sum is negative 1. So the numbers are negative 4 and 3. So we just write y minus 4 and y plus 3. And then C, x squared plus 2x minus 15. The product is negative 15 and the sum is 2. So the numbers are 5 and negative 3. So we just get x minus 3 and x plus 5. Okay, harder trinomials. So the product is 45 because it's a 3 and there's a 15 in 3x squared plus 14x plus 15. And the sum is 14. So the numbers must be 9 and 5. So you write 9 and 5 in the middle by splitting the 14x into 9x plus 5x. And then you factor out of 3x from the first two terms, and a factor out of 5 from the second group of terms. And then you get 3x plus 5 times x plus 3. 3b, 4p squared minus 16p plus 7. So the product is 28. The sum is negative 16. So the number is negative 14 and negative 2. So we split the negative 16p into negative 2p and negative 14p. Then we factor out 2p from the first group and a negative 7 from the second group. And then we get 2p minus 7 times 2p minus 1. Okay, question C. Product 18, sum negative 11. So the numbers are negative 9, negative 2. So we split the middle term negative 11x into negative 9x minus 2x. We factor a 3x from the first group, which is the first two terms. We factor a negative 2 from the last two terms. So we get 3x minus 2 times x minus 3. Okay, question D. 11x squared plus 32x minus 3. The product is negative 33, and the sum is 32. So you have to say what two numbers when multiplied together gives us negative 33, and when you add them gives you 32. And the answer is 33 times negative 1 gives us negative 33, and when you add them it gives you 32. So we split it, the 32x into 33x minus 1x. We factor out 11x from the first two terms and a negative 1 from the last two terms. So we get 11x minus 1 times x plus 3. Question E. 2y squared minus y minus 28. So the product is equal to negative 56, and the sum is equal to negative 1. So the numbers are negative 8 and 7. So we write 2y squared minus 8y plus 7y minus 28. We'll factor out of 2y from the first two terms and a 7 from the last two terms. Then we see that is 2y plus 7 times y minus 4. Question F. 2x squared plus xy minus 36y squared. The product is negative 72, and the sum is equal to plus 1. And so the numbers must be 9 and negative 8. But notice how there's a y in the last term there, and in the middle there's x times y. So we will split the xy into plus 9xy and minus 8xy. And then we will factor out a 2x from the first two terms and a 9y from the second two terms. And then we get 2x plus 9y times x minus 4y. Okay, question 1. Factor 4x plus 6x squared. So we can factor a common 2x out from the two terms. Question 2. It says here is 5x cubed plus 25x squared minus 30x. So we factor out the common factor of 5x. So now it becomes 5x times x squared plus 5x minus 6. And then we see that the product of the trinomial in the bracket is -6 and the sum is 5. So the two numbers that matches the product and the sum description is 6 and -1. So it becomes 5x times x plus 6 times x minus 1. Question 3, 12ax plus 3ay minus 15az. We can factor out 3a, which is common to all three terms. Question 4, x squared plus 3x plus 2. The product has to be 2 and the sum has to be 3. So the numbers are 2 and 1. So the answer is x plus 2 times x plus 1. Question 5. The product has to be -30 and the sum is equal to -1. So the numbers are -6 and 5. So the answer is y plus 5 times y minus 6. Question 6. A squared plus 17a plus 60. So we can split it so that the 17a becomes 12a plus 5a. And if we do that, we get a times a plus 12 plus 5 times a plus 12, which means it's a plus 5 times a plus 12. Question 7, 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. We can split the middle into 2x plus 4x. And if we do that and we factor out 2x from the first two terms, we get 2x x plus 1 plus 4 times x plus 1, which is 2x plus 4 times x plus 1. And we can factor out another 2, and that will be 2x plus 2x plus 1. Question 8, 3k squared minus 15k plus 18. We factor out a 3 from each of the terms. We get 3 times k squared minus 5k plus 6. We can split the 5k into minus 3k and minus 2k, so that we get k times k minus 3 minus 2 times k minus 3, which is equal to 3 times k minus 2 times k minus 3. Okay, question 9. 5x squared plus 5x minus 30. Factor out a 5 from each of the terms. Then you will see that the product has to be equal to -6. The sum is 1, so the number is 3 and -2. So it becomes 5 times x plus 3 times x minus 2. Question 10. 3x squared minus 7x plus 4. We can split the -7x into 3x and then a -4x. And then we factor out 3x from the first two terms and a 4 from the last two terms. And then we get 3x minus 4 times x minus 1. Question 11. 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. So we can split the 9x into 4x plus 5x. So that is equal to, and then we factor out 2x from the first two terms and a 5 from the last two terms. So that is equal to 2x plus 5 times x plus 2. Question 12. 2b squared minus b minus 15. We can split the -b into -6b plus 5b. And then we factor out a 2b from the first two terms and a 5 from the last two terms. And we get 2b plus 5 times b minus 3. So question 13, 4c squared minus 8c minus 21. The product is equal to negative 84. The sum is negative 8. So the number is negative 14 times 6. So we split that into negative 14c plus 6c in the middle. Then we factor the 2c from the first two term and the 3 from the last two term, and then we get 2c plus 3 times 2c minus 7. Question 14, 4x squared minus 17x plus 15. The product is equal to 60, and the sum is negative 17, so the number is negative 12 and negative 5. We split the term in the middle into negative 12x and negative 5x. We factor the first two terms and we factor the last two terms. Then we get 4x minus 5 times x minus 3. Question 15. 5w squared plus 11w plus 2. The product is equal to 10 and the sum is equal to 11, so the number has to be 10 and 1. So we split it in the middle into become 5w squared plus 10w plus w plus 2, which is equal to 5w times w plus 2 plus 1 times w plus 2. So the common factor is w plus 2. So it becomes 5w plus 1 times w plus 2. Question 16. The product is, we factor out a common 4 from all the terms, and then the product becomes negative 45, and the sum is negative 12, and the numbers are negative 15 and 3. Okay, then we continue to factor from the first two terms and the last two terms, and then we find the common factor of 3x plus 1, so it becomes 4 times 3x plus 5 times 3x plus 1. Question 17, we factor out 8 from all the terms. Then we see that the product is 150 and the sum is negative 25, so the numbers are negative 15 and negative 10. We split the middle terms into the two numbers, so negative 15x and negative 10x. We factor the first two terms and we factor the last two terms, and then we see a common factor of 2x minus 5, so the answer is 8 times 3x plus 5 minus 5 times 2x minus 5. Question 18, 24n cubed plus 68n squared plus 48n. We factor out a 4n, and then we see the product is equal to 72 and the sum is equal to 17, so the numbers are 9 and 8. So we write plus 9n and plus 8n in the middle. Then we factor the first two terms and we factor the last two terms. And then we see a common denominator, a common factor of 2n plus 3. So it becomes 3n plus 4 times 2n plus 3 inside the bracket. Question 19. an plus an plus bn plus bn. We can factor the first two terms for a, last two terms for b. Then it becomes a plus b times n minus n. Question 20. 10ax plus 4ay minus 15x minus 6y. We factor the first two terms, we factor the last two terms, and then we see a common denominator and it gives us an answer. Same thing with question 21, 9am plus 3bm plus 6an plus 2bn. Factor the first two terms, factor the second two terms, gives a common factor, and then that will give you the answer. 22, x cubed plus x squared plus x plus 1. We factor x squared from the first two terms. We factor a 1 from the last two terms and get x squared plus 1 times x plus 1. 23. 1 plus ab plus a plus b. That's just, we can rearrange it so it becomes a plus ab plus b plus 1. And then we just factor the first two terms, factor the second term. And we see that there's a common factor of b plus 1, so it becomes a plus 1 times b plus 1. 24, x plus y squared minus x minus y. That is equal to x plus y times x plus y minus 1 times x plus y. So it says x plus y minus 1 times x plus y. $25, 9x squared minus 30xy plus 25y squared. So here we have to think of the product, which is 225, and the sum is negative 30, so the numbers is negative 15 times negative 15. So we split the middle term into negative 15xy and negative 15xy. Factor the first two terms, factor the second two terms, which is the last two terms. We get 3x minus 5y times 3x minus 5y, which is just 3x minus 5y squared. Question 26. 16a squared plus 24ab plus 9b squared. Product equals 144. Sum is 24. Number is 12 times 12. So we split the middle term, factor the first two, and factor the last two terms, and we'll get our answer for a plus 3b squared. Question 27. Factor a 2 out from all the terms. Then we can see that for 25, that's 5 times 5. And for 36, that's 6 times 6. So we draw a cross and we write out the 5 on one of the sections and the 5 on the bottom section and the 6 on one of the sections, while representing the last term and the 6 on the bottom there. And then what happens is 5 times 6 is 30, and 5 times 6 is also 30. And then you double that and it becomes 60. Okay. And in order for it to become a negative number in the middle, it must be the case that 36 is actually negative 6 times negative 6, so that you get the negative term in the middle. So that's just equal to 2 5a minus 6b times 5a minus 6b, which is 2 5a minus 6b squared. $28. There's a difference of square, and we just plug in the known formula, which is a squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b, and then we just substitute x and y for a and b respectively. 29 is also a difference of square. So we can see 49 is just 7 times 7. 64 is just 8 times 8. And since it's negative 64, it means there's going to be 1 positive 8 and 1 minus 8. So we get 7x minus 8y times 7x minus 8y plus 8y. Question 30, we factor out a 2a, and then we see that there's a 3 for the 9 and a 5 for the b. So it's 2a, 3a minus 5b, 3a plus 5b. 31, 2x minus 1 squared minus y squared. So we just write 2x minus 1 minus y, 2x minus 1 plus y. Just substitute using the formula for this difference of squares. 32, 9k squared minus 5m minus 1 squared. That's just 3k squared minus 5m minus 1 squared. And then we substitute into the difference of square formula. And then we distribute the negative and distribute the positive to get 3k minus 5m plus 1, 3k plus 5m minus 1. Question 33, 4a squared minus 9 minus 2ab plus 3b. So that is 2a squared minus 3 squared minus 2a times b plus 3 times b. So we can see the b is the common factor for the last two terms. We can see that it's a difference of squares for the first two terms. So you get 2a minus 3 times 2a plus 3 minus b times 2a minus 3. So the 2a minus 3 is a common factor. So it's 2a minus 3 times 2a plus 3 minus b. 34, 5x squared plus 7 times 5x plus 12. Let 5x be a. Now you get a squared plus 7a plus 12. And then we see that for 12 is 3 times 4. For a is 1 times 1. So we just do a plus 3 and a plus 4. And then we sub back a equals 5x for the final answer. Question 35. X squared plus 3x squared minus 2x squared plus 3x minus 8. We let the complicated terms be a. So x squared plus 3x be a. Then we say, well, it's just 1 and 1 for the first term, and the last term, that's just negative 4 times 2, right? And we add them, it becomes negative 2. So we just get a minus 4 and a plus 2, and we sub back in the variable for a. Question 36. We let x equals a plus b, and then we test out the different approaches. So we can get 3 and 2 for the first term, and we can get 1 and 5 for the last term. And we see that it's going to be 3x plus 1 and 2x plus 5. And that 3 times 5 is 15, and 2 times 1 is 2. So you make a cross with the numbers, and you add them, and it becomes 17. So we know those are the two brackets, two factors that we can write out in. But if you are more comfortable doing 2x plus 15x by splitting the middle term, you can do that as well. And that becomes 2x times 3x plus 1 plus 5 times 3x plus 1 and then you factor the 3x plus 1 out, and then you sub in the a plus b for x, and then you distribute the 2 and distribute the 3 for the final answer. (47) m squared plus minus 9 is the difference of square. 6n minus n squared, we can factor out at n. So we get n minus 3, n plus 3 plus n times 6 minus n. So the idea is we could do plus n and minus n for n minus 3 and n plus 3. So we're going to test that out by doing n minus 3 plus n times n plus 3 minus n. And when we do that, we get n plus 3n minus mn minus 3n minus 9 and plus 3n plus nm plus 3n minus n squared. So we get the n squared and we get m squared minus 9 plus 6n minus n squared. So the answer is n minus 3 plus n times n plus 3 minus n. So you can see the last n gives you a negative n squared. So it's just the plus 6n that we have to figure out. So because there is a positive n and a negative n, and there's a negative 3 and a positive 3, when you multiply it, you get positive 3n and also another positive 3n for the other 3n. So that's how you know that's the right order. So you can always test out by trying the two different combinations and then simplify to see if you get the right answer. Okay, question 38. 49 minus 2y minus w squared. That's equal to 7 squared minus 2y minus w squared. Difference of squares, so we will just use the formula, plug in the variables. The formula is a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. Yeah, same thing for 49, just plug in the variables to that formula. Well, question 40, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared minus c squared plus 6c minus 9. So we look at the a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, we know it's going to be a plus b times a plus b. We look at the c squared, negative c squared plus 6c minus 9. And we can see that to get negative c squared, one of the c must be negative. So we put a negative c in the thing and a positive c in the second bracket. And then we see that it's double the c, so that means we have to be has to be plus 3c plus 3c, so to get 6c. And then you see that the negative 9, that's just negative 3 times 3. So we're going to do plus 3 in the first bracket and negative 3 in the second bracket. And the reason is when 3c times the positive c, it has to be positive. So the other one has to be, the first one has to be positive. And when the negative 3 times the negative c becomes 3c, so they get double the c. So that's why the second 3 has to be negative. And then you just simplify the a plus b minus c plus 3 times a plus b plus c minus 3 to see if you get the same answer as the question. Question 41. We get a 5y, right? And it's negative in the middle. And we get a 3 for the positive 9 when we try to think about what number square itself gets you that. So it would be 5y minus 3. So that's set in stone. And then you look at the last 3 terms of the question. So negative 4c squared, that's negative 2c, comma 2c. And the negative d squared is negative d, comma d, because to get negative, one of the variable has to be negative. And then we get a minus 4cd, which has to be negative in the middle. So we write negative 2c and negative 2c, negative 2c and positive 2c into the brackets. And then because the middle term is negative, we put negative d in the first bracket and positive d in the second bracket. And if we do that, we get negative d plus times plus 2c, and we get positive d times negative 2c to give us negative 4cd. So that's why that's the answer.